Welcome back to the Pro Series Podcast. This is episode 153. Today's guest is Charlie Panayi. He is a owner, a CEO, a millionaire by 25. So much is going on with him. He's a real estate investor as well. We talk about a lot into the real estate investing, a lot about the businesses that he has acquired and has been in charge of. But I also secretly just ask him a lot of advice for somebody that is young, that is looking to be a millionaire or maybe just to grow. I think sometimes it's hard for a young person to actually know what's going on and they know their goals, but they don't know how to get there. And that's kind of a lot of what we talk about in this episode. But before you get into this episode, please like, subscribe, and review the Pro Series Podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. And now I hope you enjoy episode 153 with Charlie Panayi. Charlie, thank you so much for hopping on the Pro Series Podcast today. Can't wait to talk to you and get a little bit background on what you're up to and how you got to where you are.
No, thanks for having me on, first of all.
Yeah.
The time, I'm not sure the time difference at the moment. We're both in different parts of the world as we speak, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. We were talking off camera that you're all over the place. How hard is it to be in all kinds of different time zones? Because you're in Hawaii now.
I guess I'm just used to it because actually since I started my career, I've always travelled. So I think I've just used to. A real trick for anyone who does travel a lot for work is try and get those midnight or 1 a.m. flights, because then you can just sleep through. And for me personally, I can't sleep on flights outside of that time. So what happens is I don't tend to get too much of a jet lag as I get off. So no, I don't know if it's just body conditioning, but over the years I'm just used to it now.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear how you started. Like, let's go to the very, very beginning on how Charlie started in his professional career.
So, I mean, I'll give you the real direct version. I mean, I was a really sad 7-year-old. Or clever. I mean, you could look at it different ways. But Easter, for example, I used to say to my parents, "Don't give me the money you were going to the Easter eggs you were going to give me for Easter. Give me some pound coins. I'll save." So from 7 years old, I already established that in my head, I wanted to be able to retire by the age of 32. Don't know why. It's quite an odd thing as a 7-year-old. And I just went around my ways. And then I actually, luckily, I mean, I do believe you make your own luck, but I did luckily get this job as an account manager at 17. I got into the team at 16. And I never thought I'd get the job. I just they actually told me, they phoned me and they said that we like your appetite to even try to apply for this job. So because of that, as a goodwill gesture, we're just going to interview you so you've got interview practice. This is when I was 16. They're like, you're not going to get a job. So, but we just like the fact that you tried. Anyway, they offered me a job as an apprentice. A year later, I was managing over £3 million for them.
Wow.
And like English pounds, obviously. So yeah, it was I would say lucky because they didn't have to give me that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be fair, that enabled me to then make the money I needed to buy properties and buy real estate at a young age because of that job. So yeah, I mean, I gave you the shortened version, but realistically, I think from 7 years old, I was already knowing that I needed to earn X amount of money so I could buy X amount of properties. So then I could be retired. That was just really the logic as a kid.
Okay. Where'd you grow up?
Mainly in North London, in England.
Okay.
But then my family are Greek Cypriot, so my dad used to take us to Cyprus quite a lot as well. So, but mainly North London. So
Okay.
I'm a London boy by growing up, I guess.
Yeah.
Technically Cypriot.
So at 16 years old, over here in the States, you're only in 10th grade, so you still have 2 more years of schooling. What is it over there?
Technically, same thing. So yeah,
Okay.
you have 2 more years. They call it sixth form or college here.
Okay.
And then you go to university to do your degrees. But I knew I wasn't going to stay. I mean, and I don't mean what I'm about to say disrespectfully to any teachers out there, because I'm generalising on a couple that I met at a young age. But I remember a couple of teachers at my school who were just really miserable. And I remember this is what I mean, I was probably quite an odd child. But I remember thinking, well, you're not even happy with your life. So what am I going to learn from you? I didn't say this out loud. I wasn't rude. I've never been a rude person, but in my head, so I already decided I wasn't going to go to school, like it's in university and stuff. I have done 2 degrees, but I done them during work, not at going to college or whatnot. So yeah, so it's the same. So I actually left school early. Really, I got the job. I said, all right, I'm off. See you later, and then that was that.
My gosh. So did that enter the apprenticeship turn into an account managing job?
Yeah, yeah. So it was an apprenticeship, like I said. That they didn't have. They weren't planning on hiring one. It was just they liked me,
That's cool.
and then I sat down with the manager quite early doors because I realised I really liked the job. It was a it was really it's a relationship job, and I love building relationships. So I realised I really enjoyed it. So I sat down the manager early doors and I said, "Hey, how do I do your job? Like, how do I become an account director?" And he laughed at me,
Hmm.
actually. Not, he didn't mean it in a mean way, but he did laugh at me. He said, "Well, look, you're not going to be managing accounts for years." He's like,
Yeah.
"So maybe just focus on what you're doing." I said, "No, you tell me exactly what I have to demonstrate, so then I know where I need to go to be accountable for that." And anyway, 7 months later, I sat him down, said, "Oh, can we have a meeting?" And I showed him everything that I could do and what I demonstrated. And I said, "Well, no, you've got no choice but to give me the job." He's like, "Oh, I guess so." I just pigeonholed him into no choice really,
Hmm.
and I went from there really. I was always very driven. It was always a case of not having excuses. I just wanted to know, how do you get there? And
Yeah.
if I don't know the answer, I'm going to put myself in a room with people that do know the answer, and that's how I've always been.
How do you think you learn that? Because I feel like there's so many people, and I think majority of the people when they start out their career after college, so they're 22 years old, they go through that mindset that they're too young to be appreciated in the workforce and stuff.
Hmm.
You're 16 in the workforce, and you're
Yeah.
kind of overcoming it. What do you think? Was it your parents that kind of taught you something, or is it just something you learned throughout life?
Um, I personally think I got a lot from my parents because they were really hard-working people. They're really, they were not rich, not poor, but they're just really hard-working people. So I think I got great work ethic from them. All my siblings are different, though, mind you, but I definitely got work ethic from them. I mean, and I guess fear is one of those things all of us have, and that's
Mhm.
why people get that imposter syndrome. Of lots of imposter syndromes, but
Yeah.
the age one is quite common. I'm not old enough to really be able to demonstrate my professionalism or knowledge in this area, but I've everyone has fear, but I think it was just something in my brain. My mum, I think, used to worry if I had special needs at one point because because I really was that specific, and I think I understood what fear was, and I was so competitive with myself that I
Mm.
wasn't going to let fear beat me. So was I nervous? Uh, I was working with directors of Virgin Media and Jaguar and Mercedes and huge international companies at 17 years old. And was I nervous going into meetings with them? Oh,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, gosh, if they really knew what I was feeling, I wouldn't have got any work. But I just understood what fear and nerves were, and I talk about fear bubbles a lot, and I just understood actually, you just got to put yourself outside of that fear bubble, and you know, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, but at least you learn, and then
Hmm.
if I make a mistake, then next time I maybe let's do something different. So I think it was just something inside me. I think you can learn it. You
Yeah.
can definitely learn how to be like that. But for me, I think at such a young age, I just had this thing, and I don't know what it was. I had this understanding that I needed to learn off people that were better at things than I am. So I'd always try and be around people that were better than me. There was a director at that company that I started my career in. No one really liked being in a room with him because he was a hypnotist as well. But I
Mm.
remember watching him deliver this talk, and it was all Audi business directors in this room, and he just controlled this room. He had a real ability and an aura around him, and I was like, "Hey, look, he scares the crap out of me." Sorry if that's too direct, but he scares the crap out of me. But I want to be in his room because I want to see how he does it. I want to know how is he doing what he does. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it was just something in me. You can definitely learn it, but obviously I was too young then to learn that. I think it was just and I'd still like it today. I hate heights, but I will. I've done wing walks, I've done skydives, I've started doing flying lessons recently. I just don't like heights beating me. I won't do a
Yeah.
bungee jump. I draw the line there.
Yeah.
But
I don't blame you. Yeah, I mean,
draw the line there.
you just have to have a desire to overcome that, get out of that comfort zone type of deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think that's sort of how I was, like I said, just born with it really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where most people. I was about to say stay average. I don't mean that in a negative way, but if you do want to be successful, and I don't mean wealth success, I mean just maybe you want to be a runner. If you don't put yourself into that fear section, you're never going to be successful at running at your peak. If you want to be wealthy, if you constantly stay in the safe zone, you're never going to be wealthy unless you
Mm-hmm.
get past that money. You're
Yeah.
just not. So I think it's not about money success, it's about success. And I think at a young age, I was always competitive with myself, not really other people. I don't particularly care what other people do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just myself. I hate losing to myself. So it's quite a weird. It's actually quite problematic, really, because I'm always
Yeah.
pushing.
The only competition you should be worried about is yourself. And I think
Yeah,
you brought up a good point about success. Everybody always think, and I think that's just a universal thing. Everybody's always associates success with money when there's so many different forms of success, and success looks differently to every single person.
100%. Yeah, and I think it's probably more about understanding your purpose. It sounds cheesy, some people say, "Oh, yeah, it's a bit cheesy," but if you can try and understand what your purpose is for you yourself personally, that's where you can figure out what your success is. But people chase money; it's
Right.
natural,
Yeah.
and money does whatever anyone wants to say. Money helps with happiness. Doesn't make you happy,
Yeah.
but it definitely helps. But let's be realistic here.
Yeah. It helps you with it's gives you freedom most of
Yeah,
the time.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your next business path after this first job?
So that job actually enabled me to do what I wanted to do, which was buy real estate.
Okay.
Because I was earning good money at a young age. I always wanted to buy real estate. I don't know why. Again, obviously, I know why now, but then it was just like, hey, I can be financially free through real estate, so that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I bought my first property at 18, literally the day I turned 18. And that income enabled me to continue scaling my property business whilst working. Lots of people quit there and go full in on real estate, which is fine if you do. But for me, I understood that, hey, I want to get far, far further along, far quicker if I do what I'm doing. And I enjoyed what I did. So it wasn't I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And it did. It helped me really scale that. But I got to the age of, I think I was there until I was nearly 21. So I was there for only 4 years, 5 years. And then I decided I was going to go. And to be quite direct, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I was financially free. At 21, I decided I'm going to go and live in Madagascar for a while. I don't need to earn money anymore. And I can go and do what I want now. And I gave my boss notice. I gave him 3 months notice. I was like, hey, I love the company. They taught me things that made me really. And I gave them 3 months notice with no real understanding of what I was going to do. Because when you achieve your goals far earlier than you planned to
Mm-hmm.
achieve them, you get a bit of a, well, what's next?
Yeah.
So I literally did go to Madagascar for a while. And it's coming back into that talk about the fear and coming outside that fear bubble. I met a gentleman who, on a ferry, he had his noise cancelling headphones on and there was nowhere else to sit. And I thought, well, I've got something to eat here, so I need to sit somewhere. So I said to him, he was the most unapproachable person probably there. So I thought, there we are, let's try and chat to this guy then. So I said, can I sit here and eat? And he was like, yeah, okay. And he come around to talking to me. And long story short, I phoned him just before I was going to Madagascar because he owned a sailing company. And I had this idea I could travel. I've always wanted to travel the world. So he's going to have contacts. So I phoned him. He said, the day I met you, I went back and spoke to the board and said, I'd love to have that person work for me. Then this was 6, 7 months after I met him. And he said, so if you want to work for us, come back to work for us when you finish in Madagascar. I was like, all right then. So we signed the contract, and then I became an exec director there. But I still carried on scaling my personal businesses on the side. And most of those were real. They were all real estate at that point. Up until 5-6 years ago, all of majority of what I did was real estate related. Real estate agents, property management companies, development stuff, investment stuff. So until might have been longer, but 5-6 years ago, it was all property.
So when you say real estate, were you doing residential, commercial? Was it land, or kind of everything?
Anything and everything, whatever
Anything?
Worked, then I was open to it. I got 3 industry leader awards in Europe for property, so I really went deep into understanding things. I don't like to. I always want to learn. It doesn't matter whether I achieve my goals or not. I still do qualifications today because I just want to learn.
Yeah.
So yeah, there wasn't really. I mean, the building we're sat in now, I bought not long ago, so that's commercial. I just really whatever comes. If it's a good deal, then let's go.
Are you buying them, flipping them, or are you just keeping them as rental properties type of deal?
Yeah, rental. I've only ever sold one property.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've only ever sold one, and that was only because I didn't like it, but no real technical reason behind it. No, I buy them. I do all sorts. I do conversions, flip them, rent them. But I always rent them at the end, whether that's house multiple occupancies, commercials, residentials, whatever one comes again, whatever deal. At the moment, I've got all of those deals on the pipeline. So whatever works, really.
So they're all over the world, the properties that you own?
Well, not all over the world. I mean, there's definitely a heavy proportion in the UK, and why the UK is the best property market in the world. So from an investment perspective, I look at there, but Berlin had some really good times. Obviously got not investment related ones in Spain and in Cyprus. I've done obviously quite a lot in America in the years, the UAE, but not everywhere.
My gosh. How hard is that to keep in like I own a house here in the States, and my bank's right down the street from that house. Any type of issue I have is like just right next to that house. With you being in different territories and stuff, and would you have to have all these different connections and keeping that all together? And how hard is that?
So I guess if someone who doesn't live my life looked at it, they'd probably think, how the hell does he do this?
Yeah.
And people always ask me that. If you ask my partner, she'd be like, he's never stressed. I think, there was something in my brain that just understood I needed connections, I needed to trust people, I needed relationships. So from a very young age, I intentionally made relationships, working relationships, not romantic relationships, but I'm on about working, networking, relationships. So everywhere I do business, I have people I trust because. So I don't really ever feel it. Don't get me wrong. We all get moments where we're thinking, am I coming or going, or what's happening? There is those moments, obviously, but I'm very, very boring in some ways. In terms of, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I wake up. In terms of how long it takes me to shower, how long it takes me to brush my teeth, how long it takes me to do my hair, how long it takes me to get dressed, the exact minutes. And my partner, when she first got with me, she used to find it infuriating. I put my alarm on at, I don't know, 6:06, or if I've got someone else on 5:29, or it's always very specific because I know the exact amount of time I need, and that's all I'm using. So I think I've got this brain where I associate timings quite well, and I think that's to me where unorganized people probably miss out something there. They need to learn, how do I understand my timings? How long does my average email take? How long does my average phone call take? because then I don't really feel that pressured. You know, I know roughly if
Yeah.
I've got X, Y, Z in the diary, what that will roughly take in my day, and then I tend to be having a lot more time left over because of it. But
Hmm.
yeah, there is moments. Don't get me wrong. There's always moments where you're like, you know, you get
What's going on?
curveballs. At the moment, I've got two curveballs for two properties at the same time that I meant to complete next week. Not ideal.
No.
Not ideal situation. But you know what? We'll figure it out. so,
Yeah.
so
It's funny you say that thing about the time. I do the same thing. And when you tell someone that's maybe very unorganized and that they have to live life like kind of like that, that stresses them out thinking about
yeah,
what time they need to do for each task. Like you just said, your morning routine, like you brush your teeth, you're doing your hair and all that stuff. They wouldn't even think to do that. They're just thinking
no,
like business wise or exercise wise. But if you really plan out your day, it allows you to have, even if you're trying to balance your life out, like work
yeah,
life balance is a huge thing right now.
yeah.
It helps with that because you actually can get it down to a science.
100%, and it keeps yourself accountable as well. And I think, yeah, I think sometimes I think, oh, that's boring. I don't want to. But it's not about being boring. Actually, it's about giving yourself freedom.
Yeah.
Because if you're unorganized, I mean, one of the worst traits, a gent I'm mentoring, he won't mind me mentioning it because I'm not going to name him, but a gent I'm mentoring at the moment, I knew he was a type that had loads of alarms. I didn't know it for a fact, but I just knew he is the type of guy that has a load of alarms in the morning.
Hmm.
Now, all that does is set you up to fail. Your day is ruined before you start. Because if you have to get up at 7 and your first alarm is at 6, and then you've got an hour's worth of alarms before you actually get out of bed, all you've done is lost for 60 times in a row. You've
Hmm.
literally lost 60 times in a row before you even start your day. And I said this to him recently because he was saying he was having problems with sleep and energy and stuff like that. And I said, I know you don't. I know you've got multiple alarms. He's like, how do you know? I was like, because I just know. He's like, oh, yeah, I do. I said, do me a favor tomorrow. What time do you actually need to wake up? And he's told, I can't remember what the time was now. I said, right, put your alarm on for that time. That's it. And he's like, yeah, but what if I don't wake up? I was like, you will wake up. You will wake up. You're not going to sleep through it because you know that's your last time you can get up. And then you have far more energy. And then you'll also feel far better
Hmm.
because I like to, I mean, I think people call them different things, but I like to stack wins before I even get going. So, you know, doing those things and not needing to be reminded 60 times to get out of bed and I've won. I'm up, make my bed, I've won again. I brush my teeth and I don't take forever. I've won again. You know, I have a healthy breakfast. I've won again. So before we start, I'm already winning. Anyway, he done that the next day and he messaged me, WhatsApp me, and he just said, Charles, you're bloody right. So that was his words. He's like, you're bloody right. I was like, I know I'm right. I said, because you are already giving yourself a negative aura of
Hmm.
your day. I'm not a spiritual guy, but it's true. You just and that's what they don't understand. It's like people using the alarm example. They're just like, yeah, well, as long as I get up by 7, I'll just put this on and it will eventually get me up. It's not going to help you. Understand what time you need to wake up. Get up at that time. That's that.
Hmm.
And it's the same for everything else. But I think people undervalue that. You know, some people are like, yeah, well, I'm still successful, or I enjoy being unorganized because I'm a free spirit. But you're not free because you're always stressed. You're always late. You're always getting moaned at. You get sacked from jobs. You get this. So are you happy being a free will? Not really. You know, you'd
Hmm.
be far freer understanding where you're spending your time.
Yeah. I think one of the ultimate keys of success for professionally, not and maybe you could relate it to money as well, but I think it's all has to do with mindset. Mindset is
Mhm.
such a huge thing when it comes to anything in life, sports, professionally, relationships. It's a huge thing that people miss.
Yeah, 100%. And they don't look after themselves. So going back to the
Hmm.
when I don't mentor many people a year, I only mentor 12 people a year. But every single one I mentor, they have to do a minimum of a 30-minute power walk a day. And they have to read at least 10 pages of a book a day, self-development book.
Okay.
And some of them, when I say about the exercise side, they're like, yeah, but I'm not here to, I'm not here to be fit. I said, but I need you to be healthy, because when you're doing that walk, or if you go to the gym instead, or play football or tennis, whatever, that's fine. But that exercise is super important because it releases the endorphins, the dopamine, relieves stress, and actually you tend to think about things clearer when you're doing a sport or healthy exercise. And the reading is to focus your brain. You will always read. When you read a book, you should learn something. You probably learn at least one thing from every book. But it's not necessarily the learning why I want them to read it. It's the focus, rather than us scrolling through our phones and getting caught up in 20-second reels for 2 hours. You're just teaching your brain for 20, 30 minutes how to focus. And it all comes down to mindset. I won't tell the camera, but on my wall, I've got a mindset as everything, all over it over there.
It is.
Because it is, and you don't have to be the cleverest person in the room. Academically, it's helpful to be smart, but it's not going to make you successful. It's your mindset and how you approach things, and I think I completely agree. And you're right. It doesn't mean just business or wealth. It's personal relationships as well. Romantic relationships. It can change everything.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Change your mood, everything. Yeah. So when it comes
Instant.
to real estate, is there anything else you're in business with, or is it real estate's your primary focus?
Yeah. Tech, beauty, media.
Oh, okay.
Starting to look at other things. So I like to businesses above 1 million and below 5 million. I like to buy.
Okay.
Because there's real scalability. So I'm not actually too fussed, but I focus on professional services because I can group them together in many ways. Tech, SaaS, and real estate, obviously. So
Yeah.
I business structure I get, so I enjoy it. Real estate's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
But I just enjoy business. I actually probably enjoy the 12 people I mentor a year. I probably enjoy that more than anything now because I can see the changes in them. I enjoy that because I feel like success. If I really helped change
Yeah.
that person's life in a positive way, then that's
Oh,
success.
yeah.
So I don't actually make anywhere near as much money out of that. Obviously, I make no money in comparison, but I actually get as much fulfillment out of that as I do scaling, a £1 million business to 12.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's the main reason why I loved interior design so much, going in and solving a problem of someone's house and being able to renovate their house and have it
Mm.
allow work for them. I'm in the same way. But when it comes to these businesses and stuff, are you doing it like the real estate? Are you just building it and keeping them, or are you building them and selling them?
The businesses I have a different intention to get them into a position to sell them.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Look, and a generalization, we all have a little, an English term we call our puppies, that we don't like to let go. So you always will have a certain ones that you've got this reason, no real reason, but you just keep hold of them. But no, the intention is how do we take it from 1 to 12, 1
Mm,
to 10? Because at 10 million, I can sell them relatively easy. 1 million, not so easy.
yeah.
So it's about how do we go from A to B. So yeah, the intention is always to sell, or relieve the shares and just stay as a director on the
hmm
board.
So, what advice do you have for someone that wants to be in like a position like you or work their way up to it? I mean, it all obviously takes money to make money, so you always had to make the money in the beginning to get to the real
Mm.
estate end of it. So, someone that's trying to get to that point, to start buying the real estate, what advice do you have? Or maybe something you would regret or maybe redo in your life if you could?
Oh, blimey! If I could turn back to 18 when I first started buying properties, I've never been arrogant because I don't. I just, I'm not that type. But I was relatively ignorant in terms of I was making good money. So you're telling me how to buy property? Don't think so. I'll buy it. And if I could turn back time, I actually would have got education, because if you think about one of my guys I'm working with at the moment called Joe, what I helped him do in 2 weeks took me 10 years. So in hindsight, I probably would have thought education. And I don't mean going over OTT. Some people end up going for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, just learning, and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, either seeking out that mentor or coach that will give you the information you need, or educate yourself, one or the other. But the biggest tip is you can do real estate without your own money. There's ways to do that. Obviously, I could tell people how to do that, but that's a whole other episode probably. But
Mm-hmm.
you can do it without your own money. The biggest key is just take action every single day. And that might sound really simple, but that's the difference between you and the average person. The person that every single day moves forward and doesn't make excuses for why they didn't do this, or oh, it was that person's fault. It's no one else's fault other than your own.
Mm-hmm.
You take the action every single day and think, right, if I need to earn $20,000 to get my first down payment on whatever you want to buy, how am I going to get to 20,000? Rather than thinking I want 60 properties, I want to own 60 properties. Let's just simplify it. You need 20x, whatever. It depends where you are in the US, obviously, but I need 20 plus K. How am I getting 20K? And focus on that first, and every single day move towards that. And
Mm-hmm.
then you go to the next. And I think that's a bit where I see people fail. They do a lot of talking, and not much action. And I think that's the bit that really differentiates successful people to less successful people.
What do you see in those type of people that have that goal? That like they know that end point, like they want to be at this point, but everything in between, they don't really have a process or a goal set for each month, or like what you're saying, each day. What issues do you see that they need to overcome to get to that point? Because I feel like there's so many people out there that dream for this
Yeah.
big picture, but can never get to it because they just don't have anything implemented as like a process or anything.
So I'm in the process of writing a book on something along these lines. To be fair,
Oh, very cool.
and it's all about excuses, and that's people who sit in that area you're talking about are people that make a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
I have this dream, and there's always a reason. And I think what it sounds quite basic again, but they need to get over themselves, and then actually be honest with themselves and say, right, is this really a dream? Because some people get confused with their hobbies, that's their business dream.
Ah,
But that's not necessarily the case. So it's I think the hardest thing for anyone actually, and I was lucky, and I don't know about yourself, but I was lucky that I knew what I wanted at a very young age.
yeah.
Realistically, some people don't know what they want until
Mm-mm.
they're 30, 40, 50, 60, sometimes never. They
No.
might be on their deathbed. So I think the biggest key there is to try and understand, and you hear successful people talk about this a lot, but your reason why. So try and understand, what is it I'm trying to achieve and why? And it doesn't matter if it's ego. Some people are too embarrassed to say it's because of their ego. It doesn't matter. But be honest with yourself. Is it because of your ego? Is it generational wealth for your family? Is it just security? Try and understand that, and then from there work backwards, and then figure out what are my values in
Mm-hmm.
terms of if I want to walk fast, I want to be a really fast walker. Okay, well, that's a strong value of mine. So then what I need to do is make sure everyone around me likes to walk fast. And that's that. So you sort of got to work, in my opinion, backwards of what is really the reason I'm wanting to do X, Y, and Z. But really it, because it doesn't matter if you come back to the answer is I'm just greedy, or I've got a huge ego that I need to feed. It's absolutely fine, because you understand why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't understand why you're trying to get to this goal, you end up making excuses constantly, because you're not accountable. You don't have enough leverage over yourself. You need to create that leverage. So understanding why, understanding your values. You don't need to tell people this. If you decide, hey, I'm a real egotistical maniac, and that's that. You don't need to go and tell people that, but at least
No.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think people just look past that. They
Hmm.
think because of peer pressure and because of society that I should be a millionaire. I
Yeah.
should be this. No, understand why you want to do what you want to do, and I think that's where they can really change that, and that's why I'm trying. I say trying to write this book because it turns out I'm not very good at writing books, but it will come together before the end of the year. That's my goal. That's the end of the year. It will be done, but I'm trying to put that together because I genuinely believe that's the people's problem. Not everyone's, but that's people's problem. They don't
Yeah.
understand what their goal is, so then they make a ton of excuses. And there's a gentleman in England called Jeremy Kyle that made a great career on TV out of people that made excuses. A bit like Jerry Springer show.
Okay.
They made a TV career out of people that made excuses because everyone on the Jerry Springer show would always be like, "Oh yeah, but it's my dad's fault because they were this," or "It was my auntie's fault because they've done this." Hey, it's your choice. Yes, some people get a better start at life, evidently, but it's still your choice of how you look after people, how you make your own decisions, and how you take your own actions. So I think that's where those people struggle. They just don't take into account those parts.
Oh yeah. Well, I can't wait for the book to come out. I want you to come back on once that comes out and we can talk about this more.
It's turned out to be quite tough because it's not something that I'm actually that good at, but we get there. I mean, I know
Yeah.
the answers, but put it down on paper,
Oh
and
yeah,
it
I'm
it'll
the
differ.
worst writer, so I would be no help.
Yeah.
But I want to end with two questions. First up, your goal when you were younger, when you started your career, was to retire at 32. Is that
Yeah.
still the goal?
I'm over 32 now,
Oh,
so
okay.
I achieved that. I don't actually really technically know the answer
Okay.
because it obviously depends on what lifestyle you want to live for the rest of your life. But probably by 25, I could do what I wanted to do by the age of 32. So no, my goal is completely different. Turns out I can never retire.
No,
I'm not mentally.
I was
I
gonna ask
I
that.
just can't. I don't think it's something I'll ever be able to do. I tried last year, and and everyone who knows me professionally, like acquaintances, they were just taking the mick out of me really before I did. They're like, "Yeah, all right, we'll give you a week." And to be fair, most of them they were right.
Yeah,
It didn't last long. It didn't last long at all.
I don't blame you. I don't think I could ever do it either.
No, it's just boring. I like to have purpose and you know understand where I'm going. Otherwise, I feel like I'm wasting my life.
Yeah, yeah. And when you build so much in success in different parts of your businesses like that, you don't want to just give it up and just let it
No.
go.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Money changes. So just because I might be financially free at 25 or 21 doesn't mean that will forever be the case. Money
Yeah,
change, money changes, market changes. So you've got to protect your wealth as well.
yeah.
Um, and I think yeah, I don't think entrepreneurs can ever really stop. You might
I
want
don't
to tell yourself you can, but
know. And we
but
hear so many stories once they do retire that they pass away suddenly afterwards or something
well,
like that.
coming back to if you think about the normal, I don't know the average retirement age in the US at the moment, but it's going up to about 70 now in the UK. And you're taught as a child that you're going to go to school, and then you're going to go to college or university, and then you're going to get a job, and then you should buy a house, and then you should pay in your pension until you're 67, and then you should retire happy. Nah, not a chance am I buying that. You
No,
aren't going to retire happy. You ain't got enough of your life to live. Why should you wait till you're 70 to live your life? So yeah, that's the problem. I think in the US education, the UK education, we like to teach people how to be an employee,
yeah,
not how to really be successful. And I don't mean financially. I just mean really be successful with your life and understand it.
I completely agree. Yeah, that's majority of the people that come on this podcast come from the corporate world and they're
Mm.
leaving it because of that reason. They're getting controlled. They're being taught to,
Yeah.
stay still, and all these all false lies to them, and they just kind of get to them to the point where they want to
Mm.
jump out and start that professional like real estate or design or whatever that passion project is, and just finally live their life.
Yeah, but then the corporates want to keep you in the box. You know,
Yeah.
they don't want you to come outside of that box because otherwise you'll know things they don't want you to know.
Oh yeah.
And that's the reality. You know, that's what we're taught in education as a child. And then we go and work for this big corporate company, and that's what they teach us as well. And I'm not saying it's, you know, like the corporate company I work for was one of the best things that happened to me in terms of my education, what they gave me. Um, but but yeah, I really don't buy
Yeah.
that side of it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Charlie, I want to end with where people could find you on social media, or any links or your website, just so people could follow you.
I mean, so I'm quite active on Instagram, which is actually just my name, Charlie underscore Panayi. I have LinkedIn, obviously. I've got a website, which again, really simple, charliepanayi.com. It's just so it's quite easy to find me. I'm always open to conversations. I mean, I try and respond to everyone that messages me. So you know, anyone listening, if something resonated with them, or they just want to know something, just ping me a message, and I tend to reply. I mean, there's no one I don't reply to. I can't guarantee how quickly.
Yeah. No, I love that. Awesome. Well, and I'll also have it in the description where people could find you as well in the podcast, on social media, and the podcast form. Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on this call today. Can't wait to get this one out.
Yeah, well, hopefully it goes down well for your listeners.